Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 8th. This is Alternate Tuning Tuesday. I realize it is not Tuesday, it is Wednesday, but I'm doing this in the wee hours of Wednesday morning, trying to work around my new work schedule. Got a new job, I'm very excited about that. It's going well. But my name is Bill Callahan. This is Fretboard Refugee, my channel. And we try every Tuesday to cover something interesting in an alternate guitar tuning. So this week we're going to be focused on open G tuning. This is a continuation from last week, which is actually a continuation from several weeks ago. I think it's my third show on open G. We talked last week about the history of open G or Spanish tuning. This week we're going to talk about something a lot of the guitar books don't mention about open G, but something that Tony Polecastro over at Acoustic Tuesday and Tony's Acoustic Challenge did a whole episode on that I thought was brilliant, about stealing, quote unquote, stealing banjo techniques for fingerstyle guitar. I've never played a banjo. I've always wanted to. It's a very cool looking instrument. It's a very cool sounding instrument, a very American instrument. There's two kinds of banjos. First of all, there's what's called five-string banjo, and this is what is played in bluegrass and old-time music, and shows up a little bit in blues and jazz, but not much. There's what's called a tenor banjo, which has four strings and is tuned like a tenor guitar. And that's a whole rabbit hole right there. We'll talk about tenor guitars sometime, maybe when I have one. I would love to have one, but tenor guitar is a four-string, higher register guitar that uses the same tuning by default as a tenor banjo, but there's also what's called Chicago tuning, which is kind of like a baritone ukulele, where it goes D, G, B, E, which are of course the high four strings of a regular six-string guitar. And there's also fifths tuning, same tuning as a mandolin, where it's going to go G, D, A, E, which is a very cool idea, and I would love to play one of those. That's actually an idea for some future episodes. We can talk about mandolin tuning, although I don't have a mandolin to demonstrate with. I did at one point, but had to sell it. Anyway, this is open G tuning. The five-string banjo in most American music is going to go, well, if you picture one, you know it has that one shorter string, the fifth string, the string on the very top if you're holding it up. So forget about our low string for a second. The tuning on your average American banjo is going to go G right there on the short string. That's called the drone string. D, G, B, D. So just like our guitar open G, except we also have a low D up here. So the banjo is usually played in one of two styles. We have what's called bluegrass style. In bluegrass style, also known as finger picking, which has a slightly different meaning than it does in the guitar world, but we'll talk about that a little. Usually you'll be playing with a thumb pick and at least two finger picks. And the way finger picking works, it looks a lot like fingerstyle guitar as we understand it. There'll be thumb picking down, usually with a thumb pick, on whatever your bass string is, and you're gonna come up with the fingers and pick with the finger pick in an upward motion. So a lot like the way you'd pluck a guitar, but you know, with metal claws on your fingers. The other family of banjo styles, or branch of the banjo family tree, is what's called claw hammer or old time banjo. In this case, you're still picking with your thumb, usually without a thumb pick, much like you would in fingerstyle guitar, but your primary means of articulating notes and chords is to flick with the back of your nails, sometimes with the whole hand, sometimes with one finger. Now the the bluegrass style is going to be predicated on rolls, things that are a lot like the patterns we see in a fingerstyle guitar. So what you call a square roll might look like this. You would have thumb articulate one of your bass strings on the downbeat. Finger would pick one of the higher strings. Thumb would go to a different bass string. Finger would come up on a different high string. In this case, it's kind of a fourth string, second string, third string, first string. So and what's cool about that is it has four individual notes, whether they're quarter notes or eighth notes. They're going to fit into a song in 4/4 time in a way that repeats. But a lot of the rolls that are used in banjo playing are 3-beat rolls or 3-unit rolls, whether those are quarter notes or 8 notes, 16th notes, however fine you want to get with it. The point is they don't fit evenly into 4/4 time. So this is what's called a forward roll. We're just going to play it on open strings for a minute. So third string with the thumb, second string with the index, first string with the middle. So if we just count, let's say we're doing quarter notes in 4/4 time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's not until the fourth measure that we repeat the same relationship between which finger is hitting on which beat, which is very cool because it gives the whole thing, especially in a band context where you have multiple people playing bluegrass together, literally seems like a roll with relation to the music, where something is cycling at a slightly different rhythm than the music itself is cycling. We can play with some very basic 2-finger chord shapes. Like we could be on the first fret of the second string, second fret of the first string, and we can just move up third and fourth, and then both on the fifth. That I won't get into the theory of why this works, but this is something that Tony plays with in his video. So let's start with that first 4 count thing I showed you. That kind of sounds something like this. I'll try to do a couple measures of each shape here. So. Oops, I switched rolls, sorry. So that gives you an idea of how it sounds with the square roll, the 4 count. Now if we go into that 3 count, it's going to get interesting. So this is kind of, I don't know necessarily any banjo tunes, but it's kind of a cool way to just practice finger and thumb coordination and independence. Now let's talk about the other way of doing things, claw hammer. Now claw hammer is kind of the reverse of everything you know about fingerstyle guitar, in that you're going to be hitting your melody notes, your higher notes, your treble notes with the back of the finger on the downbeat, and your thumb is going to hit on the offbeat. So it's going to kind of look like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and often in claw hammer you were alternating a chord shape flick with an individual note flick. So that might look like this. 1 and 2 and I'm sorry. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'm sorry, this is very counterintuitive for me to do, especially this early in the morning, because it's the exact opposite of everything I know about fingerstyle guitar. But that is something to practice. That is something I am working on just to give me more tools in my arsenal. What's cool about open G for this kind of finger picking is the same thing that's cool about open G for slide. That you have a lot of notes right next to each other, within 2 frets of each other on these strings down here that can give you chord voicings, especially when you combine them with the right bass note. And you have D and G to choose from as bass notes without having to fret anything. You can even sort of run a random fingerstyle pattern, like let's use the Piedmont roll. And you can use bar chords or even a slide to articulate a fingerstyle pattern up and down the fretboard. So let's just get on the 12th fret and see what happens if we do like a variant of the Piedmont roll. Let's see. Let's go to our 4 chord. Oops. My fretting's not perfect here. Hold on. 5 chord. If you speed up that finger picking a little, that might sound pretty interesting. You can also just, because there's so many harmonious notes next to each other, you can just play with shapes here. Like let's just play with what would normally be a D chord. See if we get anything interesting here. Up a couple frets. Not very nimble with the fingers this early in the morning, but you can see that in open G, a lot of times if you're just farting around on the fretboard, you get some pretty cool things that come out. So that's something to think about. I will put a link in the description to that Tony Polecastro video. Highly recommend you check it out. That's all I got for this morning. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.